Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, a new Souls-like game, and by the looks of it, it's pretty soulless. And looking at the Steam active numbers, it doesn't look good. But I hear you, this game did release day one on Game Pass, and to be fair, looking at the achievements on Xbox app, most people didn't even finish first actual boss battle. And less than 1% of people who turned it on actually finished the game. And I may brag about the fact that for some reason I chose to be in this 0.64%. Yes, I finished Flintlock. I won't say that I was having a time of my life, and I won't say I was crying when playing this title. The game is in fact a heavily mixed bag. And not good, but at the same time not bad. It works when you don't have anything other to play, but you may pick it on Game Pass, but I shit you not, it's not worth $40. Yes, we in fact are dealing with a game that is a AA title. The funniest thing about this game is in fact the story of it, which is flat like a plank that you would expect Ben Shapiro to pick from the Home Depot. Our main protagonist is a leader of Blackstream Sappers, and her father figure Baz goes on a mission to blow up the door in the City of Dawn through which the dead are pouring in to the living world. Nor, the main protagonist, asks the commander for permission to catch up to the team that was tasked with blowing the door, and is allowed to. When she catches up with them, they destroy the barrier, they go in, confront the god Uru, which decimates them, and after that we meet Enki, a god in the form of a little feathery fox. Nor wants to kill him because people in this world hate gods, and Enki is in fact a god, but he manages to win her over and swears that he's going to help her kill the gods that wreak havoc in the world. The story set up in the prologue of this game, and to be completely fair, it's a good sketch. But there are only few moments in this game that the story is actually being told. On the beginning, when traveling from the map number 1 to the second map, and then to the third map, and at the end of the game. Everything in between is just filled with casual conversations without any cutscenes, where two characters just stand and talk. Even when there are emotions in the character's voice, for an example, one scene Nor sees the dead bodies burning and almost cries, you can only hear the emotions in the voice, you don't actually see them on the face when you turn over the camera. There is nothing, just moving lips. The 90% of the game anyway, you are going to be ending up wearing a helmet, which gives you the additional statistics, but you don't get the option also to hide the helmet when wearing it, like a lot of games tends to do. The world is straight up a fantasy world, which doesn't have really much to offer. The game plays through in the linear fashion. You travel from one point to the other, you free the villages, defeat the leader of the monsters in the village, then the village turns from ruins to a bright and alive, full of people village. Of course, you are allowed to run around and explore the world, but most of the map doesn't really have anything interesting to offer. The only things that you may find are chests in some optional locations which contain weapon or piece of armor, and there are collectibles though, really small amount of them, like Enki's feathers, which you have 5 of them in the entire game, bandit flags, which you must shut down, 30 flags overall in the entire game, 15 on the both maps that are main maps in the game, shrines of Inaya, which actually extend your health bar. And we also have skulls on the map, which kinda count as collectibles. You can activate them, and this opens up rifts that you can travel through with Enki, and it works as a shortcut, or sometimes even can lift you up to the places that there is no other way to, but most of the time it works as a shortcut, so you don't have to replay the same sequences over and over again if you die or you just want to return to some place for some reason. And also, you may find people in the games world willing to play this terrible minigame, which straight up makes no sense. You have 2 rounds. You win the first round by putting the coins in the triangle, and most of the time it happens because the game allows you to win after you execute some type of move. The game just moves out of place and you can actually do it. And the second round consists from preventing the enemy, so you just go take one coin left, right, left, right, left, right until the moves actually finish. The game makes no sense, but you have plenty of those in the game. And tied to this game, you have special coins that have special abilities, like can move around the board and stuff like this. You can find them in special locations, usually in the wells. But outside of that, everything just comes down to moving forward towards the marker on the map, cleaning the village, fighting some monsters and bandits along the way. Most of the side stuff gives you something in return. Enki's feathers strengthen him, for an example, and his curse. Cleaning out the villages will give you up additional potions to use, and playing that horrible minigame will actually get you reputation points, which basically are souls if you win against someone for the first time. There are side missions. Some characters can give you side quests, and usually it's like go find me something or defeat the monsters or bandits. The funniest are the quests given to you from your group that you travel with. Baz wants you, for an example, to find his gun that was stolen, and after you find this gun, he says, okay, keep it, it's yours. And it's not a very good gun, by the way. Other guy wants the armor, and you get the armor for him, and he also says, yeah, you keep it, it's yours. So why did you ask me to actually get this for you if you don't want it? And besides, that mission with getting the armor has pretty nice setup to it that is fucked up. The armor is in a knight's possession, so he wants to kill you, but respects that you came to him and talked to him and without trickery and stuff like this. So he gives you a choice. Fight me without magic, gunpowder, firearms, and we will just leave this place and leave you alone. Steal to steal. Whenever I hit him for the first time, he says, what a shame, indicating that I broke the rules already, and tells his men to attack me. I didn't use the gun or magic or anything at this point, and the entire introduction was pointless. And if the game treats enhanced axe with a fire damage as a type of magic or powder, I don't know what to say. Like, at least give me the indication that I have this, or I don't know, give me the ability to change my equipment. It could have been an actually decent point in the game when the choice actually matters and the conclusion to this mission is going to be different, but for me there wasn't. And I could have changed the axe just clicking the right on the D-pad, but there was no information that this certain axe is forbidden. And when you are playing the game and you don't really change equipment that much, you forget that your axe even has fiery damage at some point. All of the weapons in the game, by the way, can be upgraded, and you can collect spread around the world iron, wood, sulfur, and you can actually make your equipment stronger. The only problem is that the resources are spread around without any indication where to find them. They are just through around the world. So you find sulfur or iron in the middle of the desert or wood in the middle of the city. Like, you just have to run around and look at the buildings, stones, walls to find the stuff. The only thing that you actually can find that you know where you will find some amount of it is probably sulfur, which is a sulfur mine, and that's it. The rest of it you have to just run around and grind for it. Other than that, it makes it way harder to upgrade the weapons and the equipment to some sensible tiers, but I have to say, like, if you want to upgrade this to the maximum, it actually makes a significant difference in damage, and yeah, it's worth it, but you have to run around and find it. But let's get this. This game is a Souls-like. How about I will tell you why this many people did not even get to the first boss fight? Well, through the first 3 to 4 hours in the game, depends on how fast you're playing, how good you are, you will not see the real boss fight. The first boss fight in the prologue doesn't count, you must lose it. Then you have enemies and you have mini bosses, like a leader in the town you must take back. The actual first boss battle is like 3 to 4 hours into the game. Then after this one battle, about like 30-40 minutes later, you have the second boss battle. After this, the third boss battle is like 20 minutes later, and the last one is 15 minutes later. All the bosses, instead of spreading them around equally throughout the game to give you something to be interested about, about and excited about. They crammed all of the boss battles into this last 1.5 hour, 2 hour game, and outside of that, like, I don't know why would you do this. You actually don't get people interested because they have to play 4 hours to get to some actual boss battle that matters. And outside of this, like, any explanation why the people hate the gods and want them dead and why Enki is helping us, we don't really get much world building, so there is nothing hooking you with from the story perspective. And the gods wreak havoc in the world. It looks just for the fun of it. The main protagonist doesn't really have a backstory. She's an orphan, Baz took her in and became her mentor and father figure, and she's a supper. That's it. She doesn't have any flaws, she only has good qualities, and even when she screws things up, it's really not her fault. The deepest character in the entire game is probably Enki, a god who visits the world and doesn't really understand everything what people do. Little scene, an optional conversation in the game. When you just pass next to the water wheel, he stops and is amused how he likes how it works and the sounds it makes.
What is that thing?
What's wrong? Why are we stopping?
What do they call that thing?
That's a water wheel. People use it to haul big things, make huge machines move.
It sings so sweetly. It creaks and splashes. Listen, I could stay here forever.
I'll come back when it's all over, okay?
I suppose.
And this is a great scene with this water wheel, but it's the one scene and then there is a continuation as a second additional scene. But we need more than that. And even with the information about Nor, our main protagonist, we don't even get the information about Baz being her father figure, that she was an orphan, he took her in through like a cutscene that matters. No, we get this information that's thrown at us when we run through the game and as a casual conversation between her and Enki. And the only emotional, heartbreaking scene that the game has to offer has nothing to do with our main protagonist either. It's a scene that happens in the last 30 minutes of the game and it's entirely about Enki. So there are moments in this game that work, but there is a good sketch of a story with some bullet points that just work, but it feels like there was no budget to make it actually good. So you may also ask, how is the combat system? It's a Souls-like, it's the most important thing. Well, it's laughably simplistic. You have an axe and a firearm, and you have one attack button, as described in the controls as a light attack, even though this is only button that you're going to be using for a attack with an axe. There is no heavy attack. So firearm also is to your disposition. You can shoot the enemies if you filled the gun with the bullets by attacking people. Enki can also curse enemies, and with it, after some upgrades, you can actually deal damage with Enki. When meter is full in the lower corner, you actually have to your disposition a special attack, which is a tornado with Enki, the curse tornado. If you fill the bar on the enemy, like curse bar, enemy gets staggered and becomes the easy target. You also have a long firearms, which is musket, a grenade launcher, a few others, which at this point they actually take some time for you to use. So mostly work on unsuspecting enemies in the distance rather than in the close combat. And if you actually get to headshot the enemy from the musket, the camera actually follows the bullet like in Sniper Elite games. And also few types of the grenades that don't do shit most of the time. Obviously, you can dodge, you can use the double jump and triple jump even, because Enki on the beginning of the game upgrades your powder and allows you to double and triple jump, and this allows you to get to higher shells or get through the wider gaps. And you can also block and parry enemies, but I almost forgot to mention this because it's so sluggish that I never used it once throughout the entire game outside of the tutorial, which the game forces you to use it. You also have a skill tree, and the couple of skills are worth it, but most of them are not. Some skills are passive and other ones are active, and in the later part of the game I found myself just upgrading any skills because like I wanted to get to something that is higher up and there was nothing really interesting that I would use. A lot of skills from this tree ties to blocking and parrying, and on my personal playthrough it's completely useless. So enemies most of the time work and look the same. The dead and the bandits, sometimes aggressive birds and spiders, and that's basically most of it. Bandits and zombies even have the same behavior. Like, some of them throw projectiles, other ones use a crossbow or a musket, other fight with a sword and sometimes with a sword and shield. Other zombies, just like bandits, have a full armor on, and you must get rid of it, mashing everything you have and Enki to stagger them and get rid of the armor to defeat them. The only interesting designs to the enemies are in the boss fights, which are extremely easy because there is one tactic that works on every single of these 4 boss fights. Spam attacks at your enemy with the axe and Enki's curse. When you actually see the boss is going to execute the attack, shoot him with your firearm, then he gets stunned, then you spam attack even more and repeat throughout the entire battle. There is nothing different happening in all of these 4 boss battles. The only time that you have to break the cycle a bit for a little while is the second boss battle and the last boss. It do have special sequences when you have to like run around the map and dodge some distance attacks, but after the sequence is over you return to just mashing the attack button and sometimes shooting your firearm to stun them, and that's it. Graphically, the game is decent. It's a AA production, but it looks relatively good. However, if it comes to performance, things ain't as pretty as we would like them to be. On PC, the game looks way better than on the consoles, and what you see on the screen, it's not even ultra settings, it's high, and the game keeps the frames, but it stutters a lot. Even during the cutscenes, when there are like camera changes or stuff like this, the game just stutters. During the gameplay, it stutters when something big is going to happen, like an explosion in the prologue. So I decided to turn on my Xbox Series X and the game didn't stutter, but it looks a bit worse than on PC, and a few times in the towns the game actually did start losing frames. At one point I also had this completely screwed up sound, you can hear it right now, and had to reset the game because it wouldn't fix itself for like 2 hours. And one time after dying to the final boss and respawning, I was greeted by the entirely white screen, which I can happily announce, yes, it did fix itself after I died again. Another thing that ties to the performance would be probably the second boss fight's problems. Somehow I was getting hit and killed by the enemy despite his animation indicating something different. A few times his sword hit me when it was up. All the time I died standing outside the hit zone and I just collapsed. And this only happened to this one boss fight. The other ones worked properly, but this one I've noticed it was notorious that I would get damaged before the enemy sword even reached me. Other than that, everything else works, but it's pretty much another Souls-like game where there's plenty of other titles that do the same things way better than Flintlock does. If it got more development time, it could have been an actual good game, but as of now, we received a game with barebone empty world, simplistic combat system, samey enemies, good story idea but unfulfilled potential, 2 main characters when Enki is interesting but Nor, the main protagonist of the game, just is there. She is not interesting, she's not annoying, she's just there. And the relationship between 2 main characters, Nor and Enki, that progresses from 1 to 100 with a speed of light, and we don't even feel like anything of it was actually earned. As of now, this game deserves 5 out of 10. It's not a bad game, it's definitely playable if you don't have anything else to play, but it's not good either, where it would be worth spending $40 to play this. But if you have a time and already subscribed to Game Pass, you may give it a try. That's all, bye.